Hello and welcome to the channel. Through this video, we are going to learn how to launch the EC2 instance using the Windows operating system. We are also going to learn how to connect to the instance using the RDP. So it's Windows, and in case of Windows, we are not using the SSH. Instead, we use RDP connection, right? So let's get started without losing a second. You need to be logged into the AWS Management Console using your account. So you can use your root account, or you can use any other user that you have created using the IAM, which has the sufficient permission. So in this the dashboard of the home screen, you can see on top of it the services. And from the services, you can click over the EC2 instance, which is under compute category. Once it loads, you will see the dashboard of the EC2, where you can see if there is any running instance, it has any elastic IPs or volumes, key pairs, etc., which can be seen from here. And you can also navigate to the specific item and directly jump to there to take care of it if required. So you can click on the launch instance, or alternatively, you can go to the instances, and from there you can find the same button, launch instance, and it will take you to the process of provisioning the EC2 instance. This is more of the manual mode of provisioning the server, but that's not very common practice when you are dealing with the bulk of resources. You will be using some different mechanism for that. So this is just for launching a couple of servers and provisioning them for maybe dev and test purposes. So here you can find out 3 different ways how we can obtain our AMI of our requirement, matching with our requirement. So currently we are required the Windows based AMI, and we can either get it from the community, which is free, or AWS Marketplace, which will be chargeable. Alternatively, if I have any into the my AMI, I can use that, but for that I have to create it first and then use it later. So right now I do not have anything in the my AMI or private AMI, so I'm going to go for community version of AMI for the Windows. So what I will do is I'll just shortlist or filter out from the here the search box given. So this will help me to get a specific Windows filtered out of all the results, and I can see plenty of Windows flavors are available. Out of them, a lot of options are there in the free tier. So I'm just going with the base version of the Windows AMI, which is here, which has the Windows Server 2019 base operating system. And that's more than enough for current need. But you have other options like having the PaaS of this or SaaS of this, basically, which has the Windows Server with the SQL Server 17 bundle inside. So you can use that as well, but that's going to be chargeable. This is the free tier eligibility, so we'll take that. We'll go with the default setting, T2 Micro, which is free tier eligibility, but paying a little bit of extra cost, you will be able to get a different sizing of the machine, which has better vCPU and memory. So as per your requirement, suppose if you want to play more with the instance that you launch, you can take a little bit higher configuration if you want, but keep in mind that will incur the cost. So this is the one that is default and free for us. So we'll move to the next one, configuration. So here you can give a number of instances that you want to provision at a time. You can give any number, and you can also use the auto scaling group to ensure the number of instances that you launch, they will be maintained up and live all the times. If there is anything faulty, ASG is going to take care about it. So it will replace, it will ensure to replace the faulty one with the one that is healthy. Here I'll go with the default VPC. I'm not going to create any custom VPC, as I'm only interested in launching the Windows machine and connecting over the RDP. And I'll choose the availability zone, which is associated, which has the associated subnets. So in the availability zone 2A, I can prefer to launch my server. So I have just selected that. And keep that in mind, it is associated with the default VPC. So this is my default subnet basically. I have not created any from my side. And I can have the public address assigned by AWS. If I disable it, then it would be a problem because I need to connect from my local laptop and I need a public IP address. So I'll go with this common configuration, which is there. I'm not going to change anything over here other than the VPC and subnet that I have modified. I have the EBS root volume, which is defaultly 30 GB of size mentioned over here. I can tweak it to make it 20 or 40 or whatever size that suits my need. So operating system is going to take approximately 9 to 10 GB, and rest of the area, rest of the size of the disk will be given to me for my computation work, so application can run and use the file systems. If I need more, I can use that, but recommendation is always use the new volume if you need additional area, and leave this for the MBR, master boot records, and operating system use. So clicking here, you can add the additional storage, and you can choose any size of EBS volume, which you have to mount it once you attach it. It will not it will show up in your EC2 instance once you mount it, right? So this is how you should launch your EC2 instance with additional ABS volume. So as of now, I'm not requiring it, so I'll just cancel. And the last two options are one is for delete on termination. So it will ensure that my volume, the root volume type, will be deleted along my termination of EC2 instance. So whenever I terminate my EC2 instance, the root volume will be also ensured to be deleted by the AWS. So I do not have to additionally put the effort to clean it up. The encryption feature is also available on demand. So by default, it is disabled. But if we need, we have to go in a KMS and create one KMS key and give alias of the key and come over here and select that particular key if we want to use our own key. Otherwise, we have a default key that is that is going to be maintained and handled by purely by EBS and KMS. So will not be responsible or managing the keys there. There are two options: either you go with the default one or you go create the custom KMS key and do it. Next one is adding the tags. This is the best practice to add some tags because you can use it for multi-purposes like grouping them and applying some policies or some queries you want to do or filter out. So I'm going to give a name as a test server, and I'm going to also add another tag as an environment. So this is going to be basically identify which environment I'm going to launch or keep this server with. So this is going to be my test environment. This is for testing purpose. The QA is going to use this machine. Next is to create the security group, or either I can create it or launch it with the existing one. So I prefer to create it so that I can change the rules in line right now for the inbound and outbound. So inbound rule for RDP for incoming traffic, you have to set it the port of it. So this is automatically taken because Windows offers the connectivity over the RDP. But when you are launching your Linux machines, you will see the SSH and default port will be 22 over the TCP. And here I'm going to give a name to my security group as a test server SG, and same thing in the description as well, so that I can identify this is my security group. And in the source, I'm going to limit this traffic, which is currently to the anywhere in the internet for IPv4. So I'm going to limit it to my IP, and then it will become the RDP only open for my machine to connect it. No one else or no other host in the uh, internet will be able to send a communication to this EC2 instance, right? So it will quickly compute my IP address on the go. There's a utility behind this, which is computing the IP address of my local machine and putting it. So my IP is registered over here for RDP connectivity in the inbound rule. This is the inbound rule. And I do not require to have the outbound rule, so I'm not going to keep anything here for the outbound. The only thing inbound is required, which is going to regulate the incoming traffic. Outgoing traffic is not expected here, so my test servers are not sending any request to the open internet outside, so there's no rule required for that. After reviewing, you can click on the launch, and this is going to ask for using existing key pair or either create it. So why this is required? Because once the EC2 instance is launched, we also need the username and password to use it in the remote desktop connectivity, right? So for that, we need a key pair, which will help us to generate the password. So we are going to choose a create new password, a new key pair, because we do not have the key pair yet. So we'll create one. If you have and you want to reuse, you can reuse it. But best practice of the security says that you should create the keys frequently for the different EC2 instances rather than repeating it for multiple EC2 instances, because one key compromise will cost you the compromise on a whole lot of other fleets of servers that you launch, right? So if one key is accessible to anyone, they can access any of the servers with the same key. So better to use different keys, at least for a couple of servers which are logically grouped or associated, right? So I'm going to give a name as a test server, and I'm into Sydney, so I'm just going to capture that as well, and then say that key pair. And then next I will click on the download key pair, because this is what I want the key pair to be generated and also be saved in my local disk so that I can use it whenever I require. I launch the EC2 instance, which will take a couple of seconds to start the process. And now this is just executing the provisioning steps, which is going to take somewhere 1 to 4 minutes because it's a Windows machine. So it's slightly more time than Linux will be taken here. Meanwhile, we'll just go run through the description over here. So in the description, you can see the state is still showing the pending, which is also listed out here. This is T2 micro instance type, and elastic IPs we have not taken it. This is into the southeast 2A, and southeast 2A is nothing but the Sydney, which is Asia Pacific basically. And inline, we can see the outbound, inbound rules. So here 3389 TCP for my source IP address is configured for inbound rule. Image is of the Windows server. This is the description of the image ID, and platform is window, and test server Sydney key pair is the key pair in the force. Owner is the account ID name of the 19 skills to learn. And this side you will see the public DNS and public IP address, and private DNS and private DNS. Also the VPC ID and subnet ID. This is all default for me right now. I'm not making change. And we'll also list out how many volumes you have and what type of volume. So root device type is EBS. And that's all we have over here. So we'll just quickly refresh and see that if health check is still done or no. So we'll just run through the option of getting the log if it is available by now. If not, then we have to come back. So it will take some time. So once the server is up and running properly, and then it will list down all of the logs that it has processed the steps basically. So this is what I was talking about. So you have certain steps which is executed in the machine while provisioning, and it also writes up about the user ID and password. There's a long password which is nothing but, I guess, private. Sorry, the public key. So we cannot use that for connectivity probably. So what we'll do, we'll just um, uh, click on the action and generate the password. So this is the option to create the Windows password. What we have to do is to refer to the same key that we have downloaded and use the decrypt password button to decrypt it. It will write in line everything, the user ID and password. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a note of the password, which is not a good practice to capture the password and put it in your local file system or somewhere. But since this is lengthier password, and if I have, it's a system generated, and I don't have any option, but it's not a best practice though. So next thing would be to start the RDP. I'm going to start the remote desktop connection app from the Windows, and here I'm going to copy the IP address and paste it over here, and we'll click on the show options, and from the show options I can um, get an option to put the username here. So I'll put the administrator as the username, and this is case sensitive, so you have to always keep the user as a capital. And once administrator as a user typed, connect is the button that you should click over, and go back to the password, select copy, and come back, paste the password, and next give the command to connect it. You can click on the don't show, yes, and it will not show the same hint of the certificate again and again. It will take a little bit of time to charge up with the profile. It's personalizing for my theme and desktop, which should be shown in a couple of seconds after preparing. So it's preparing my desktop right now, and the moment it is ready, it will just display my desktop, which should be happening in a 1, 2, 3 now. Yes, so this is the magic. Yep. So next is to just go and verify if we have a Windows file systems and stuff like that. So this is the base operating system of Windows Server 2019, and here we can expect is just operating system and drivers, basic drivers installed, and then your disks are created with the 30 GB, and what space we have is mostly 10 GB is only available. So 20 GB approximately plus is taken by the operating system, which is huge. So definitely running the Windows, you have to give a more space than Linux. Operating systems are very huge because here you are also seeing the graphical user interface, which generally you would not need for the production machines where the servers has to be installed. In the Linux, you just need a kernel plus the non-GUI stuff, right? So which should help you processing your commands to execute, right? So this is it. There's nothing much about it. So here you can perform your server installation or anything. So right now for this Windows machine, the outbounds are blocked. But if I need to browse the internet from here, actually what I have to do, I have to go and change my security group with the outbound rule supporting to internet open, right? So anywhere all traffic is the tweaking that I have to do, but that is something dangerous if it's not intended. So we'll close it. Before that, just last item in this is this power off. So if you click on the power off or power button, it says that disconnect, shutdown, and restart. So especially for shutdown, there is an option in the EC2 instance launch process where shutdown behavior can be specified. So by default, it takes as a shutdown as a top of the machine, because that means EC2 instance will be stopped for the moment, and you can just bring it back by rebooting it. So it will be up and running once you give a reboot command, which you can do it from the AWS management console also. And there is another option into the shutdown behavior, which is terminate. So once you choose that, it's not possible to bring the instance back once the instance is terminated. So once instance is terminated, it goes forever. So you cannot recover from there. So I'll just close it here, which will stop that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to terminate this, because this is the cleanup process I should do. And once I give a termination command, my dashboard will look like this. So I'll still have one key pair, one volume, and one additional security group created for it. Volume should eventually disappear because the instance is not yet terminated. It's in a shutdown state. There's a shutting down. So once the shutting down becomes the terminated state, the EC2 dashboard will stop showing the volume. This is what I was talking about. And key pair is something doesn't cost you. You can reuse for the next time. But out of practice, maybe you'd like to clean it up. So this is it that required to be cleaned it up. Coming back to the slide, maybe you have some of the questions or suggestions. You don't feel lazy to be writing it into the comments and asking me the answers. If I'm knowing the answer, or if I can help, I will be very happy to write down the answers for you. Or if you have some suggestion to bring some of the videos, I would seriously take it and bring that video next time. So till then, let's say goodbye to each other, and I'll make sure to bring more videos for you in the next session. So thanks a lot for watching.